Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again. And today I just want to do a quick comparison between this Redmi K30 Pro, the Mi 10 Pro, the OnePlus 8 Pro, and the Asus ROG Phone 3. And these represent some of the most incredible phones that have come out this year. I do want to bring up the fact that right here you see the four major refresh rates that manufacturers use on their phones represented. From 60 Hz on the Redmi K30 Pro to 90 Hz on the Mi 10 Pro to 120 Hz on the OnePlus 8 Pro, and finally the incredible 144 Hz on the Asus ROG Phone 3. And with each of these refresh rate increases, you see an increase in the price of these phones. With the Redmi K30 Pro starting well below the $500 mark, the Mi 10 Pro can be purchased here for around 6,000 Hong Kong dollars or around $770. OnePlus 8 Pro is costing $899 in the US and is costing even more here in Hong Kong, close to $1,000. And the Asus ROG Phone 3, the global version, will be in that similar price range, even more for the highest tier models. And so the question I really want to answer in this quick comparison, does refresh rate really make a difference? Now, I love the Redmi K30 Pro, but in day-to-day use, it is very stark when I go from one of these higher refresh rate phones to this Redmi K30 Pro. You definitely notice it is not as smooth an experience, but it's really when you get a comparison between the OnePlus 8 Pro and this Redmi K30 Pro that you notice that refresh rate difference. Now, when the Mi 10 Pro got MIUI 12, I was so impressed because I really believed that this UI was designed for higher refresh rates. And at 90 Hz, this does not disappoint. The Mi 10 Pro feels even smoother than it did before, and everything is super responsive. I think 90 Hz is a good balance of smoothness, performance, and battery life. And if you ask most people if they could tell the difference between 90 Hz and 60 Hz, I think most people will say yes. But now between the 90 Hz and the 120 on the OnePlus 8 Pro, that's where things get a little bit more tricky. Now I think most people will know that this is an incredibly smooth device, and you combine that with Oxygen OS, the OnePlus 8 Pro at 120 Hz is giving you a perceptible difference, definitely between 60. But between 120 and 90, it takes a little bit more time to actually notice the difference. Now for me, after spending almost 4 months here with the OnePlus 8 Pro, I can definitely notice the difference. But I think when you actually pair these side by side, it is a very small difference, and I think most untrained eyes will not be able to perceive the difference between 90 Hz and 120 Hz. And last but not least, this 144 Hz refresh rate on the Asus ROG Phone 3 is incredible. And yet I think it is probably the most difficult difference to spot. And at 144 Hz, you're almost reaching the point of overkill. Despite being very smooth, I perceive very little to no difference between this phone's refresh rate and the OnePlus 8 Pros. And even here shooting at 60 FPS, I'm sure you will barely notice. But there is one way that we can notice the difference, and that is by slowing down the speed of this video. So what I want to do is just a quick scroll through of Chrome, and we're going to do slow-mo on this portion of the video and just try to see if you notice a difference between 60 Hz, 90 Hz, 120 Hz, and 144 Hz. Here we go. So now I have kind of zoomed in on these phones. I'm shooting in 720p, 240. Now let's compare specific refresh rates. So 60 versus 144. Here we go. And now let's do 90 versus 144. Here we go. And now let's do 120 versus 144 and really try to notice if you see a difference when we go slow-mo. And And so there we go, guys. So not a scientific comparison, obviously, but I think it's cool to see the difference between these refresh rates, and specifically the difference between the top refresh rate and the other three, 60, 90, and 120. And after taking a look at the footage, it is a very clear separation between 144 and 60, slightly less, but still noticeable between 144 and 90. But then even between these two refresh rates, even at slow-mo, I think it is much trickier to notice the difference. And I guess that's my point, guys. 144 Hz is incredible on this Asus ROG Phone 3. Add to that the 270 Hz touch sampling and the 25 ms touch latency, and you're having one of the smoothest experiences on any phone. But is that really that much of a difference between a 120 Hz display like what we see on the OnePlus 8 Pro? Add to that the other factors that I've mentioned on this Asus ROG Phone 3, like the crushed blacks, the grainy blacks, and in terms of quality, it's just not as good a panel next to the OnePlus 8 Pros or even the Mi 10 Pros. And I think even the Redmi K30 Pro is a more even and even more pleasing panel, minus the refresh rate, over the Asus ROG Phone 3. And so does screen refresh rate really make that much of a difference? I think yes and no. If you're jumping between the 60s to the 144s, you're going to notice that difference, and you may never be able to use a phone like the Redmi K30 Pro again. But here in the middle, things are a lot more tricky, and I think it will depend on each specific person if you can notice the difference. And if I had to pick a sweet spot between all of these refresh rates, I would probably go with the 120 Hz refresh rate on the OnePlus 8 Pro. It is offering to me a near indistinguishable difference between 120 and 144 Hz. Add to that the fact that this is one of the most gorgeous displays on any phone this year. And ultimately, I think I'll be happier with the 120 Hz display on the OnePlus 8 Pro long term than the 144 Hz, slightly lower, kind of inferior display on the Asus ROG Phone 3. But hit me up in the comments. What do you think about screen refresh rates? Do you notice the difference? And where is your sweet spot when it comes to refresh rate on phones? Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon for future updates. And not sure if you noticed this, guys, but look at the battery life here on this Asus ROG Phone 3. On its third day of use now, I'm at 1%. So I guess it's time to do my battery charge test here on the Asus ROG Phone 3. Stay tuned for that as well. So that's it. And this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one. Shutting down. Oh, there we go. Time to charge you up.